Hi everyone, welcome to our presentation. We had the audiolingual method.
The audiolingual method focuses on listening and speaking rather than reading and writing. It reinforces automatic responses by drilling students to memorize specific patterns or phrases until they can use that phrase in the proper context.
Okay, so some background about the audiolingual method is that it was said to have began during World War II. At least that was when kind of discussion about it came up. Soldiers were in a period where their allies and enemies all spoke different languages, so they needed a quick way to communicate for just stuff like making purchases. So it kind of earned the name the Army method. It was the first method to actually use linguistic theory and behavioral psychology as like a founding, focusing on patterns in language, and as well as positively reinforcing correct responses. This method was started by Charles Fries at the University of Michigan based on the behavioral psychology of B.F. Skinner.
The general objective of the audiolingual method is to enable the target language communicatively. There are short-term range objectives and long-term range objectives. So for the short range objectives, we have the listening comprehension and the accurate pronunciation. And for the long range objectives, we have to develop students' ability to communicate with native speakers and emphasize patterns and make responses habitual. Some characteristics of this method include the use of drills to emphasize specific patterns. Drilling means listening to a model or provided by a teacher or a tape or another student are repeating what is heard. So there are many types of drills. Some of them are the repetition drill and the substitution drill. The repetition drill is in which students are asked to repeat the teacher's model as accurate and quickly as possible. And the substitution drill is in which students repeat the line from the dialogue with the teacher has given them, substituting the cue into the line in its proper place. We also have the memorizing phrases, the emphasizing grammatical corrections, vocabulary stat in the context of its use, and the use of audiovisual aids. So, some examples include pictures and charts. We also have focus on pronunciation and also the reinforcement of correct responses.
Because the audiolingual method focuses on memorizing patterns or specific phrases, grammatical or comprehensive errors are more rare in students. It is much more likely that any type of error will be because a student memorized the wrong phrase or is mixing up phrases that might sound similar. Responses are memorized and made habitual, so a student must simply correct how they have reinforced their response to account for their error.
The audiolingual method allows for the development of listening and speaking skills, more specifically for the pronunciation of words. This method emphasizes repetition of patterns and phrases, giving students an advantage of knowing what to expect. Lastly, because of the objectives of this method, the lesson plans may be very simple to execute in the classroom, such as having students repeat sentences after you. Some disadvantages to this method are that it focuses more on memorization, pronunciation, and habit formation rather than placing emphasis on actual comprehension, meaning, or perfect grammar. Another disadvantage to this method is that students do not have much control over what they are learning, how they are learning, or why they are learning it. The instruction is very teacher-led, which can cause some students to get lost in it if they do not keep up with their teacher.
The audiolingual method was critical in studying the discourse for how language education should take place. However, in today's form of education, it has been largely dismissed as a complete tool due to its lack of focus on comprehension and on language context. The method, however, is still a great tool in specific classroom instances, just not for education as a whole. You can help students find languages, patterns in language, as well as it can be a useful study tool for specific vocabulary. So, as a whole, I definitely think the audiolingual method was a great start to language education, but today I definitely see the flaws in it.
This method provides a strong foundation for learning how to articulate a desired language. However, I personally do not feel that it is the most useful method, as it simply reinforces information that may not necessarily make sense to the student.
Personally, I don't think this method is effective nowadays because people need to understand the context behind the words to be able to really understand the language.
I agree. I definitely think it has some minor uses, but as a whole, it's not as useful as it used to be considered.
So now let's talk a little bit about the video. So the video we choose as a group was titled The Audiolingual Method by Clara Verena, and it was made in 2016. So when we met to start working on this video, we all agreed that this video was the best one. It actually explained what is the audiolingual method, and it also gave some examples such as repetition drill and dialogue memorization. It was also very short because it only lasts 2.5 minutes, and it was very clear, which I think is very important. So in my case, English is not my first language, and this video really helped me to understand what is the audiolingual method. So this is our references slide just to make sure we are not plagiarizing anything. And thank you for listening to this presentation. I have a good day.